Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today we're going to be in the world of NASCAR. So if you're a NASCAR fan or know someone who is, please feel free to tell them to watch this video. And as always, give it a thumbs up. And I'm going to try my best to come back on here before the NASCAR season starts and talk about some of the changes we're going to see this year in the schedule. But for today, we're going to talk about all the drivers, because some drivers are in the same car as last year, of course, but some drivers are in new cars and new teams this year. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you the main sponsor and the crew chief and all that. That's too much at one time. I'm just going to tell you the car number, the driver, and what team he drives for. That way, if you're new to NASCAR or know someone who's new to NASCAR, they can watch this video, and hopefully by the time Daytona comes around next month, they'll have all the drivers and the car numbers memorized. Now, one thing you'll notice different this year, if you're a long-time follower of NASCAR, is where the number on the car is located. For years and years and years and years, it's always been pretty much right smack dab in the middle of the side of the car where the door would be if there was a door. But of course, we know in NASCAR the drivers climb in and out of the car. There's no door. But if there was a door there, you pretend there's an imaginary door there, and that's where the number has always been. It's not there anymore. They've given more room to the sponsors, which is smart because that's where the money comes from. So the number on the car has moved up closer toward the front. So you picture it being more towards the front of the car. So a lot of the double numbered cars, when they're going around the racetrack, it looks like the number is actually touching the front tires. It's not, but because of course it's a sticker on the side of the car, that's what it looks like. So it's moved closer to the front. So now that whole side of the car is pretty much a sponsor. Instead of having that big old huge number and the sponsor's name being like that, now the number is going to be closer toward the front, and the sponsor is going to have that much more room. So of course they pay more money. But you'll notice that in the first race, maybe second race, but I think by the fourth or fifth race, everybody's going to be adjusted to it, and it won't even be like it's new anymore. But the number one car this year, which has been out of the sport, at least on a full-time basis for a while, because if you know NASCAR, you know Martin Truex Jr. drove the number one Bass Pro Shop car for years. But of course now Martin Truex Jr. drives the 19 car. So the one car, at least on a full-time basis, has been out of the sport for a while. It's back now, and it's going to be driven by Ross Chastain, and that's going to be Trackhouse Racing. Now, I know I mentioned this last NASCAR season, but Trackhouse Racing used to be a one-car team. Now it's a two-car team because they bought out Chip Ganassi Racing. So the one car will be driven by Ross Chastain from Trackhouse Racing. The two car is now going to be driven by Austin Cindric. Since Brad Keselowski has left Team Penske, Austin Cindric has moved up from the Xfinity Series to take over the two car for Team Penske. The three car is still going to be Austin Dillon for Richard Childress Racing. The four car is still Kevin Harvick for Stewart Haas Racing. And if you follow the channel, you know last year I picked Kevin Harvick to win the championship, and I said he would win the championship and he would retire. Well, actually, I watched a video about 3 weeks ago where Kevin Harvick said that if he would have won the title in 2021, he more than likely would have retired. And I didn't know that. I just thought, hey, he's good enough to win one more championship, and he's old enough to retire if he does. So if he would have won the championship, he probably would have retired, which was my prediction in about April of last year. The 5 car, who is, of course, the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, is Kyle Larson for Rick Hendrick Racing. The 6 car is the new home of Brad Keselowski. He leaves Team Penske, moves over to RFK Racing, which is short for Roush Fenway Keselowski. The 7 car is driven by Corey LaJoie from Spire Motorsports. And if you're a longtime NASCAR fan, you should recognize the name LaJoie. And yes, Corey is the son of what used to be the Busch Series, the driver Randy LaJoie. The 8 car for Richard Childress Racing is going to be driven by Tyler Reddick. The 9 car for Rick Hendrick Racing is going to be driven by Chase Elliott. And speaking of Chase Elliott, it drives me crazy when they talk to him. And I know they're going to. They talk to pretty much every driver after, a race, but usually only the top 5 or top 10, make the airwaves. But if you follow along, with the magazines and the radio and all that, they pretty much talk to all the drivers. And a lot of people don't like Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick because they pretty much, give you their opinion. And I always, myself personally, have appreciated that because, they're always going to tell you how they feel. Chase Elliott is the most boring person to talk to. Chase Elliott can go out there and win the race and lead every single lap of the race. And after the race, Chase, good race today, wasn't it? Yeah, I just appreciate my guys so much. They work so hard all week long. And then Chase can go out there and finish dead last. Bad race today, Chase. Yeah, it was. We'll get back at it next week. Ain't much we can do. Just no personality. Just absolutely the most boring person ever. If they never talked to Chase Elliott again after a race or before a race, it would be too soon. The number 10 car this year, driven by Stewart-Haas Racing, Eric Almirola in that car again. And the 11 car is Denny Hamlin, of course. He's still in the FedEx car, which is owned by Joe Gibbs. The 12 car, part of Team Penske, Ryan Blaney. And then in the 14 car, we've got Chase Briscoe from Stewart-Haas Racing. And the 16 car is going to be new to the Cup Series this year from Colleague Racing, who used to be in the Xfinity Series, and they have moved up to the Cup Series. And they're going to have 2, possibly 3 different drivers that are going to run in that car. So it's going to be a full-time lineup with full-time drivers, but it's going to be a rotating cast of drivers, not just one. The main one's going to be A.J. Allmendinger, but there will also be a couple of other guys in that car as well. The 17 car, part of RFK Racing, will be driven again by Chris Buescher. And the 18 car, we know that's the best driver in NASCAR, hands down, is Kyle Busch. Of course, he drives for Joe Gibbs Racing. The 19 car, also part of Joe Gibbs Racing, Martin Truex Jr. The 20 car, also part of Joe Gibbs Racing, is Christopher Bell. And the 21 car this year, which is owned by the Wood Brothers, is going to be driven by Harrison Burton. And yes, if Burton sounds familiar, Harrison is the son of Jeff Burton. And that officially makes me feel old, being a longtime follower of NASCAR. I can recall when Jeff Burton was a young up-and-comer in the Cup Series, and now here he is with a full-grown man as his son out there driving full-time for the Wood Brothers. Harrison Burton. The 22 car is Joey Logano for Team Penske. And the 23 car again this year will be driven by Darrell Wallace Jr., better known as Bubba, for 23XI Racing, which is pretty much 2311 Racing, but they use the Roman numeral, so they call it XI. And the reason why it's called that is because it's co-owned by Denny Hamlin, who, of course, drives the 11 car, and Michael Jordan, who wore number 23 for years in the NBA, so it's 2311 Racing. And the 24 car will be driven again by William Byron for Rick Hendrick. And the 31 car is also part of colleague racing, but unlike the 16 car, which will have a rotating cast of drivers, the 31 car will be driven full-time by Justin Haley. And the 34 car is the defending Daytona champion, Michael McDowell, for Front Row Motorsports. His teammate this year in the 38 car, replacing Ryan Preece, will be Todd Gilliland. And yes, he is the son of former driver David Gilliland. And he's also for Front Row Motorsports. And the 41 car is Cole Custer, which is the fourth and final car that is owned by Stewart Haas Racing. And the 42 car is going to be driven this year by Ty Dillon, and it's going to be Petty GMS Racing. And his teammate in the old Richard Petty 43 car will be Eric Jones, who drove the 43 car last year as well. And the 45 car this year is going to be driven by Kurt Busch. He will be the teammate of Darrell Wallace Jr., so of course he's also driving for 2311 Racing. And the 47 car will be Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who drives for JTG Doherty Racing. The 48 car's Alex Bowman, who of course drives for Rick Hendrick. And the 78 car driving for Live Fast Motorsports is BJ McLeod. And the final full-time car this year in the Cup Series is the 99 of Daniel Suarez, who is the teammate of Ross Chastain for Trackhouse Racing. And me personally, I am excited about the NASCAR upcoming 2022 season. The TV ratings were up a little bit last year, which I think is great. They've also decided on the horsepower this year, which is going to be at 670. And the last couple of years, it's gone from 550 to 750. But one of those causes low downforce, and one of those causes high downforce. Now, it's just going to be 670 consistently at every racetrack, whether it's a super speedway, short track, whatever. And the drivers so far say it makes the cars seem like they're going so much faster. So I personally am excited about it. I just wanted to come on here and give everybody a heads up on all the full-time drivers this year, because if you follow NASCAR, you know every year they call it silly season in NASCAR, because it seems like about every off season there's at least 10 drivers that either switch numbers, switch crew chiefs, switch sponsors, switch teams, do something. So I didn't want anybody to go into the season and be clueless as to who was going where. And I am going to try my best before the season starts to come on here and talk about some of the changes we're going to see this year in the schedule. And I might even come back on here and give you all the crew chiefs for all these drivers. I just didn't want to give you too much in one video. If you have any early season thoughts on the upcoming 2022 NASCAR season, please feel free to let me know. And don't forget about looking out for the number changing, being from right smack dab in the middle of the door frame to being up closer towards the front tires. It will look funny for a while, but I do feel like by race 4 or 5, we'll be adjusted to it, and you'll forget all about it. And I think it's smart for NASCAR. I know a lot of the old-fashioned NASCAR fans are complaining about it right now because you got used to it being right in the middle of the door frame. But, hey, if you can move it up some, it's only moved up, 6 or 8 inches, and that gives more room for a sponsor to be on your car. That's more money. I think that's personally a good thing. And I know a lot of people watch NASCAR and you see how empty the stands are and you think, oh man, NASCAR's hurting. But in reality of it is, if you follow not just NASCAR but any sport, the money comes from TV. The money does not come from going to the game or the race or whatever we're talking about as far as sports-wise. It looks better on TV when you watch a sporting event and the stands are full, but that doesn't matter. I mean, you look at all the money these television networks are forking out to carry, baseball, basketball, football, whatever. So the money is in the TV rights. The money is not in going to the games. So yes, it does look better on TV when the NASCAR stands are full, but the reality of it is that's not where the money is. As long as people are watching on TV, that's where the money is. If the stands affected the TV deal, then you wouldn't see these TV companies forking out millions and millions of dollars just to carry it, because they'd say, you know what, we're not going to carry y'all because nobody's in the stands. I mean, you look at SEC football's been on CBS forever. In a couple years, it's moving to ESPN because ESPN's paying more money. So if the money was in people going to the games, then you wouldn't see these TV rights people paying the money. The money is in the TV. So as long as the TV ratings are up, that's all that matters. So for me to see NASCAR's TV ratings up, I enjoy it because I'm a huge NASCAR fan, have been for years. And just like last year, I made my prediction on who I thought was going to win the championship. I will make my prediction, but not today. I'll probably make it the week of the season, maybe a week into the season, something like that. But for now, let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call a sad cup of coffee? Depresso. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.